Hi guys, it's Blackie for Shaman's Forge Woodscraft. I'm back up at the wood lot today, so if you hear some dogs yapping in the background, the guy down here in this bottom's got some rabbit dogs he's trying to train a little bit, and they're kind of noisy, and I apologize for that. But today is Christmas Day 2017, so I got to stay kind of close to the home front for family matters, you understand that. But one of my subscribers pointed out to me that I owed you a video. And that was where I had made mention about something to do with a Percussion Revolver a while back, and I hadn't followed up, and I apologize for that. It isn't that I stopped doing something for because controversy or whatever. Usually the reason is I simply forget it. I get into another topic or something really takes off and I go with it when I'm making videos, or someone asks me a question that I go off on a tangent to answer for them. So it's not that I don't want to make percussion videos anymore, whatever, I do. It's just simply that I get off on a tangent. There's going to be more percussion type videos coming this spring. I'm planning on doing a pretty extensive shoot, but we'll get on that a little bit later. For now, let's talk about this. Okay, with a Percussion Revolver, what the topic we were discussing was the cap jams. And I was talking about Colt's design. To recap very quickly, you have the percussion cap on the end on this cone. Now in the 1800s they called them cone. Today it's commonly called a nipple, a percussion cap nipple. Okay? Now inside of it there's a very small opening that enters into the powder chamber. So what happens is you have your powder, your ball, your cap on it. Upon firing, the hammer strikes the cap and detonates it. This compresses forward, causing a dieseling effect that shoots a shoot of flame into the main powder charge, partially by the explosive force of the percussion cap and partially because of the air is being compressed so suddenly that it becomes a flame, much like a diesel engine works, compressed air, bang, heat. This hits the main charge and then the main charge ignites. At that moment, since black powder burns, it does not combust. That's the reason it's a Class A explosive. It dynamically starts burning from the back going forward in the limited oxygen and compressed area. As this gas builds up in the back, the pressure reaches point X, where the friction resistance of the ball being wedged in is broken, and the ball and the whole charge start moving forward. They proceed on up the barrel. The important part is back here at the back, because when that powder ignites, there's that whoosh of pressure. It tries to force itself back through that flash hole in the base of that nipple, back into the forcing cone where the percussion cap. Now the percussion cap and the hammer and the spring pressure act as a gas seal to keep that pressure from blowing straight back at the shooter. Now, what Colt was going for is a problem that was very common in percussion rifles that day was the nipple design. They talked about you'd fire it and then you had to pry the cap off because the top of the cap would bust and the ring would be left in place and you had to reach down there and grab it with your fingers and twist it or take a knife and pull it off if it was particularly hot or jagged or whatever. And this slowed down loading, and he didn't want you to have to pry the caps off the gun. So he came up with a rather ingenious method for extraction, we will say. And what that is on the bottom of the Colt hammer, as I have showed before, right here you see that slit that's cut into it. That slit is the weak link. And the opposite of the game is when that pressure hit the back at the very bottom of the hammer, there'd be a weak link and it would push out there. The cap would give in and the pressure would run around the base of the nipple and split the bottom of the cap. So that now the cap was sitting there like that over the end of the nipple. Then right here, in this slot right here, is basically the ejection port, and that's where that cap was supposed to, as the cylinder rotates like that, you see that cap was to fall off, rotate, and fall out. Excuse me, let me get that better in focus. That way, as the hammer was recocked, it would rotate over, and through that channel the spent cap would drag out and then fall out here. The caps of that day were very thin. In fact, they were called foil caps. And many times they were not much thicker than we'd think of aluminum foil. They were easily crushed. It was just a cup with a pellet in it. Today's caps are much stronger and more durable, more like primers, because we're coming from a primer mentality as opposed to a cap gun type mentality. And because of that, sometimes we have the problem on various guns, various makes, various models, of where the caps want to get stuck to the hammer. In my earlier videos, I have referenced that you need to take that slot in the face of the hammer and make sure it's nice and smooth, that there is no jagged edge to grab the cap. But is there something you can do to improve it? Yes, and it's called venting a cone or venting a nipple. Where I first became aware of this idea was in the Dixie Gun Works catalog. In the back of it, there's a big tome of tips and tricks from all kinds of things, from years and years and years of muzzleloader knowledge. And it talked about everything from how to die, how to make, stocks, how to whatever. And I took the time to read it. And one of the things they talked about was venting a percussion nipple. Now, what they would do is you would take the percussion nipple off. You would mark it to figure out where it is orientated when it's all the way home. And you would take it, put it into a vise, put that in a drill press, and very precisely drill a very tiny hole into the side of the wall of the nipple. This would allow the gas to vent out at an angle and thus split the cap. Today you can buy Sure Shot and Slick Shot and several other brands of nipples that have this feature made in a factory setting. But what can you and I do as just a, poor guy that don't have access to a drill press and a vise and everything else and doesn't want to spend $50 for a set of nipples? Well, you can make a mark, vent it yourself. Now let me zoom the camera in real close, and I'm going to do that on this gun to demonstrate the technique. Okay, now I've got the camera set a little closer. What we're going to do, and you can do this on a Colt or Remington, doesn't matter, is we're going to take off the cylinder. And the tool that we're going to need for this is one of these little needle files. And you can get these at craft stores, hobby stores, or whatever. And you want something that's fairly thin. This one is like a laurel leaf, as you can see, that comes to a really tiny point. And that's what I need, is this tiny point. And at the edge of the file, like the knife edge of it, has actually got teeth for cutting. Okay. Looking at the back of the percussion cylinder, you see here at the very bottom, right here, this is the bottom of the nipple that goes to the bottom of this U-shaped channel. That's where we're going to make this mark, because we want the gas to split the cap on the bottom, just like Colt intended. Now, let me get my eyes on so I can see more precisely what I'm doing, because Blackie is old and blind. Okay, so how do we do this? What we're going to do is we're going to take the tip of the file. I'm going to turn it now for me, and I'm looking at the bottom of the nipple. I'm going to stick the edge of that file in it, bearing down the finger, and I'm going to draw straight back to me, just like that. All I'm doing is putting a tiny little nick in the mouth of that nipple on the very bottom. I want just enough that I can catch it with a fingernail and nothing else. Now I know you're probably not going to be able to see that. I'll get it up close as I think you can. Maybe it can focus. That one right there, see that little mark I just made on the bottom of that? Okay, what that's going to do, and now I've got the mark there, I'm going to come up here on this angle. See, I'm holding it, and I'm going to push away to make sure that there's a scratch right there at the 6 o'clock position on that nipple, just like that. Not removing a lot of metal, just putting a good little nick right there where I can see it. Okay, and let me adjust the camera. Now what that has done, I've gone around and done all of them. What that has done is provided a weak link, a place so that when that pressure comes back and hits the face of the hammer with that percussion cap seal right there, it has a where to go. that pressure is going to be uniform high pressure coming straight back. Boom. I have just put a little nick at the bottom. That guarantees there's a weak link there. Now that pressure is going to curve that way. Pressure will always find the path of least resistance. And I have created a least resistance at the 6 o'clock position all the way around. Now, what this is going to do for me is, as that pressure hits, it's going to roll around and go down and split the bottom of the cap. Since I've already taken the hammer face and smoothed and cleaned it up, there's nothing for it to grip. So it's going to split the cap, and the cap's going to be sitting there just like Colt intended. I didn't make a big mark. You want to be very conservative on this. All I want to do is put just a little nick, enough of a nick I can catch it with my thumbnail. That's all it needs. Don't cut a big old dish out of it. All you need is a big enough, I'd say about as thick as a pin. They give you an idea? About as thick as a regular old, you know, sewing pin tip to fit into that. And that pressure will run around and split it. I've done this technique a couple times. I did it, the first time I did it was on a 3rd model Dragoon that had a lot of problems, and it kept just sucking caps every time. And I tried everything. And someone pointed out that if it's just looking for a path of least resistance, why not give it one? So I took a file and I cut a little notch in it, and it cured it. Now the cap split on the bottom and they just fell off. I could shoot it at high speed, run through all 6 and never jam. Did it still occasionally suck a cap? Yes, it's a Colt design. But now it was 1 cap jam out of 200 or 300 rounds as opposed to 1 out of every cylinder. It made a difference. I hope this gives you some ideas, guys. I hope this sparks an idea for you to do it yourself. Again, be conservative. You just want to make a little nick. Try it, shoot it. If it hasn't improved it, make it a little deeper. But don't go overboard. Okay? That's one of the reasons I've been a little bit hesitant to bring up this technique. It's a little more advanced. I'm scared somebody's going to take a Dremel tool and go and cut the nipple halfway to the bottom, you know, and then there's cap fragments flying everywhere and it's going to hit you in the eyes. So be conservative. It should be just a weak link at the very bottom so that gas can roll around. I hope this helps, guys. I'm Blackie for Shaman's Forge Woodscraft, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.